Good morning. Happy Monday. Another Monday where the 49ers did not win a football game, but they didn't play Sunday. We all know they played Thursday and lost, but we're here to talk about the latest news. Obviously, the 49ers get back to practice this week as they have to finish off this season. They got 3 more games. Their last place in the NFC West, but it's kind of a weird race. The NFC West, as you know, Seattle Seahawks took a loss last night to the Packers. That means the Rams move into first place in the NFC West. And technically, they're not mathematically eliminated. There'd have to be a lot of miracles, go on a 3-game win streak and hope some of these other teams lose. Yeah, it's just not going to happen. It's like less than 1%. But the NFC West is weird. It's a wild year. If the 49ers wouldn't have lost those division games, they'd be leading the division, the bottom line. And 49ers only have one division victory this season. They don't deserve to win the NFC West, unfortunately. But let me tell you something. Today, you guys probably already know the news happened this morning. The 49ers will be suspending linebacker Devondre Campbell for conduct detrimental to the team. He left the team, quit on him. We heard the story yesterday about John Lynch confronting him. And, Kyle said that there's going to be actions. They don't want him on this team. They've been trying to figure out what they're going to do. And, obviously they want to suspend him because they don't want him to get paid. So we'll talk about that. How's everybody doing this morning? Good morning. Good morning. Tej Beats, Christine, Renee. What's up, everybody? Yeah. Tej says the Lions fans were talking all that just to get, dealt with injuries. That's tough. I don't want to wish injuries on anybody, but a lot of people were talking tough on the Lions. And now David Montgomery, MCL tear. You got to feel bad for the Lions. They were probably the best team in the NFC, probably the best team in the NFL until all these injuries kind of caught up with them. Aiden Hutchinson and some other big-time injuries. They even signed Montgomery to an extension, and now he's hurt. So a lot of rough injuries for the Lions. They're still, 12-2? I think, unfortunately, top team in the NFC is the Philadelphia Eagles, and I hate to admit that. They're really good team. They're playing great at the right time of the season. You want to be strong in December going into the playoffs. So I think the Philadelphia Eagles are the best team in the NFC. It's unfortunate. And let me tell you a couple updates for today. We all know Ian Rappaport reported earlier this morning the 49ers have suspended Devondre Campbell for 3 games, the last 3 games, ending his season. By suspending Campbell for conduct detrimental to the team, the 49ers will be able to avoid paying him his final 3 paychecks of the year. Now, according to Sport Track, Devondre Campbell's 3-game suspension will cost him $261,666 in salary and pregame active bonus. So over $260K he's losing out on for walking out on the team. And obviously he can't sign with another team, so he can't go and make any money for the next 3 games. So the 49ers also have the option to go after the $111,666 of his 3.35 signing bonus for the games missed. So they can take over $200K in game salary and then over $100K in his signing bonus. They better take every single penny from this man. The 49ers are trying to make sure that they squeeze him out of as much money as they can because he quit on the team. And here's your reward. Here's your reward. So again, they're basically going to take away his remaining $260K and then his signing bonus of $111K that's left over. So, he's made over $3 million on this team, and now they're going to try to limit the rest of his money. He made a lot of money on this team. 1-year contract, you quit on him. You deserve to lose the rest of your money. You quit on your job. Why should we pay you? That's the bottom line. So I'm glad that they took a stand on this. I'm glad they made an example because obviously this was a horrible situation. You needed to help your guys. You heard Richard Sherman's take on it last night. He basically said, hey, man, yeah, I get it. You're frustrated. The incentives in your contract, you're probably not going to hit them. Maybe you talk to the team afterwards. You go to the locker room like, yo, Kyle, man, I need to get my game checks. You're screwing me out of my money. Maybe you did feel a certain type of way, but Dre Greenlaw was the guy you came to replace. We all know it. He's a Pro Bowl caliber linebacker, and you can't get mad when he comes in, and he basically played better than you have all season in his first game back. He played better than you in your first game back. There's no need to get mad. And they still needed you because fourth quarter comes along. Dre Greenlaw's on a pitch count, basically. He was a little sore with the knee. First game back, expected. And you could have been the guy that helped this team and really helped the run game. Because in that fourth quarter, the run defense was kind of falling apart without Dre Greenlaw. You needed him. Demetrius Flanagan-Fowles was playing with an injured leg in this game. Shout out to DFF, man. He played his ass off through an injury. And you got a guy that just, like Emmanuel Akko said, bruised ego, and you left the game. So you get what you deserve. Karma. You don't want to play, you ain't going to get paid. So. Let's see some of these questions. Renee says, last year the Lions fell apart in the playoffs. I don't think the Eagles will do much in the playoffs, in my opinion. I don't know. I think the Eagles are a good team. They got a better defense. Vic Fangio's fixed them up. They got a great run game. Saquon Barkley's really changed. I feel like the Eagles are kind of like the Niners last year. They needed a jolt on the offense. CMC was that jolt, and now you got Saquon Barkley over there. I don't know. We'll see. I'm not a big Jalen Hurts guy. I think he's not the greatest, in crunch time, but he's gotten to NFC championships and Super Bowls before, so you can't count him out. Tej Beat says, do you think Purdy takes the Tom Brady route and asks for less money? I know a lot of people are saying he's going to take less money, and they don't believe the Tom Pelissero reports. I'd be surprised. I think he's going to try to get after top dollar. It's the topic of the year right now. It's going to be the topic of the offseason. 49ers always have a big contract coming up, and this is Brock Purdy. This is his time, quarterback time, and it's going to take the headlines. This is going to be one of the big topics of the offseason. Will they get it done early? Will they just say, hey, let's pay our quarterback? I don't know. Because I don't know if the 49ers value him as a $60 million guy. Maybe they want him to take the discount. We know how the 49ers roll. They usually lowball initially. I hope you take the smaller contract, $40 million, $50 million, right? That's what I think most fans want him to take. Take the less money so you can build around this team like Tom Brady did, right? That'd be the smart move if you're Brock Purdy. But market value is $60 million. You're better than Tua. You're better than Dak statistically. You should get paid better than them. And that's what I think his agent's going to go in and argue. If you look at the stats over the last 3 years, QB rating, blah, blah, blah. You could sit here and put all these stats up. And whether you like the guy or not, whether you think he's a system quarterback or not, whether you think he's not going to elevate this team or not, the stats are the stats, and that's what they use in these negotiations. So it's going to be interesting. I do think Brock Purdy's going to try to go over the market and try to take that $60 million contract, close to it at least. Yeah, it's going to be interesting. It is going to be interesting. I think he's a good quarterback, but I think you'd cripple your team taking him at $60 million. And I don't think he should get paid $60 million. I mean, I like the guy, but there are limitations, and I don't want to just say, oh, it's the market. You pay the guy at the market value. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. It's going to be an interesting offseason for sure. Throwback says, it's frustrating watching how the Packers demolish the Seahawks. Has me. Yeah, I know. I watched that game last night, and I'm sitting there going, how do we lose the Seahawks that second game? We shouldn't have lost it. Throwback says, I rewatched the game, and man, that O-line was terrible. 49ers need to upgrade the left guard and center and draft a left tackle before Trent Williams retires. Absolutely 100% Throwback. I couldn't agree more. This offensive line is terrible. And whether you like Brock or not, whether you think he's worth the $60 million, that's the other point, is you need to build an offensive line around him because you need to make sure he has time. Because this year he regressed. But I feel a lot of it is he just didn't have time in the pocket, He didn't always have time. He was trying to, create stuff with his legs. Left guard, Aaron Banks, he gone, man. I thought he was going to have a big-time Pro Bowl year. Contract season, he got hurt most of the season, unfortunately for him. I don't think you bring him back. He's going to be too expensive. Go get Ben Barch and maybe another quality free agent. Ben Barch looks like he could be a starter. If he can stay healthy, that's his whole knock in his career, so you definitely need to go get another free agent or draft a guy because left guard is definitely a position up for grabs. Center, man, Jake Brendel, he's not a quality starting center in this league. Go get another center. Please, I beg you, for the life of me, go get it. You can have Jalen Moore play right tackle maybe, and maybe have Colton McKivitz to swing tackle. Jalen Moore's really proved himself. Although Colton McKivitz has played better over the last couple weeks, I don't want to rely on him. But those two guys are good depth pieces. I think Jalen Moore has proven he can maybe start, maybe try him out right tackle. And then you can have Colton as your swing tackle. But you do need to figure out what's going to happen with Trent. If he plays one more year, you still need to get the heir apparent. Draft a bona fide starter at left tackle. Or maybe get a guy in free agency if there's one available. Because even if Trent Williams comes back next year, he is at this point in his career, he's predisposed to injuries. He's gonna get hurt. It's unfortunate. Ankles, knees. That's the thing. He's 36, playing one of the hardest positions in the NFL, where you're just going out and steamrolling big dudes, and you're in the trenches, and it's one of those positions where injuries are at a very high risk. For his what he's doing. You have to really go out there and have a lot of strength to block those defensive ends, and those D ends are quick, fast, strong. And you might roll an ankle, so they definitely need a guy for insurance for Trent Williams or something of that nature. Russell says Brock didn't have any time and his receivers aren't getting separation. That's part of it. Yeah, I mean, definitely receivers aren't getting separation. They have had some drops. Offensive line definitely failing him. But at the same time, weather games, he kind of turns into a pumpkin like Cinderella. We've seen it. Big time games. He's had chances to win games and come from behind, and he's made some mistakes. Teams have, looked at the film. They've figured out Brock. Definitely not his best season. But over the course of the 3 years he's been playing for the 49ers, I mean, he's done great things. He's set franchise records in passing yards, and, he's been up there with his stats. So, again, based on what he's done statistically, he's going to have a good argument for 60 million. The receivers definitely kind of sold him this year. Deebo Samuel with some drops. Jawan Jennings with some drops this last game, which is uncharacteristic for him. Weird play calling sometimes, and a lot of it isn't on him because Kyle said they don't call audibles. So Brock really has no say in some of those play calls they make, which we're like, what the hell are you doing? But, that throw to Jennings in that Rams game, that was a force feed. You shouldn't, he didn't even see the defender. He bad timing, bad throw. There was a lot of guys underneath that were open that he could have, taken the check down. And at that position, you didn't need to go for the gusto. You could have tied the game with a field goal, field position, field awareness. So there's going to be a lot of talk on that end of the thing too. But I think overall, the biggest concern for me is making sure they fix the offensive line, and also let's figure out a defense coordinator. I think the defense played better over the last few weeks. I'm still not sold on Nick Sorensen. If you want to win a Super Bowl, I don't think he's going to do it for you. So, what's the deal with the Purdy rumor getting or asking north of 50 million? How true are these rumors? Well, we talked about this yesterday, AJ. It's from Tom Pelissero. He's a very reliable source. I think they're somewhat true. I think they're true. I mean, I don't know. Again, we talked about it earlier at the top of the show that, hey, Brock does have good stats. And, you could sit here and show the QBR and this and that. He's beaten Dak Prescott head-to-head in the playoffs. He's beaten Tua, although be it not in a big game. This was his first game back in a couple years back. But he's beaten a lot of these top quarterbacks. And unfortunately, the way you look at it, that kind of commands the market value if he's beaten those guys. But at the same token, he hasn't beaten Josh Allen. He hasn't beaten Patrick Mahomes. He hasn't beaten Lamar Jackson. So you have to count that into consideration. But I do think there is some truth to the reports of Brock Purdy asking for top dollar, top market value. Because, again, in the way the NFL works, if you're the next big guy to be paid, you're going after the market value. Brandon Ayuk, did we think he's a top 10 receiver? Did we think he's one of the best receivers in the league? You can argue that, but he got he got paid a lot of money. He wanted that $30 million, and people are like, well, I don't know if he's worth the 30, maybe 27, maybe, we sat there and argued till we were blue in the face, and he got paid the big money. So if you look at that whole situation, I think Brock Purdy gets that money, and I think that's what he's looking to get, top market, whether you think he's top market or not. Brandon Ayuk, whether you thought he was top market or not, he got top of the market. So who do I have in the Super Bowl? I thought the Lions were going to make it. I don't know if they're going to be able to overcome these injuries in the playoffs. I really don't. I know Montgomery's a big one. Hutchinson was a big blow. Like, they've had injury after injury and injury, and now the injuries are happening to their key players. Before, it wasn't their key players, but now it's starting to happen to some of their best players. So I think, unfortunately, because of those injuries, that's going to be the Achilles heel of the Lions. It's catching up with them. And then Dan Campbell, man, in the playoffs, he's going to make some silly fourth down call or weird play that just cost him. We saw last night, you got 12 minutes left in the game. You still only down 10 points. And you go for an onside kick. They score. They're up 3, scores now. That was horrible. That was a horrible decision. And I think that's what's going to cost them. Unfortunately, I think Philadelphia is going to represent the NFC in the Super Bowl. And I hate to say it, I think the Chiefs are still going to go back to the Super Bowl. I know Mahomes is dealing with the high ankle sprain, but they'll rub some black voodoo magic. They'll do some weird shit, and he's going to be okay, and they're going to win because Lamar, he just hasn't proven that he can get to the Super Bowl. He just hasn't done it. Maybe this is the year. Josh Allen, every time he gets to go up against Patrick Mahomes, I don't know what happens. Until they can prove me wrong, I got to go with the Chiefs, and I hate it. I want to see the Bills. A part of me wants to see the Bills in the Super Bowl, but I don't think it's going to happen. Right now, if I had to give you a Super Bowl prediction, it's going to be Chiefs versus Philly. That's gross. I know. What do you think of Jimmy Garoppolo making comment on Kyle? Oh, it was not Jimmy G. It was his brother. We talked about that the other day. That's silly, man. You can't be throwing shade at the coach that really put your brother on the map. Like, I know there was tension, turmoil. I'm sure there was some bitterness at the end. However, everything kind of went through. And, Jimmy G and Kyle, maybe they didn't see eye to eye. But don't throw shade at the one coach that really made your brother look good. Obviously, it sounds like they didn't leave on the best of terms when your brother's throwing shade at your former coach. That was uncalled for. Let's see. A couple more questions. Rick says Kyle needs to change the system for next season. They keep saying that they're 100% playing the same. We're running the same. Yeah, there definitely needs to be more creativity. I think Kyle's been figured out in a way. People study the film. They figure it out. And I think he does need some help. Maybe get an offensive coordinator. Maybe go get a new DC that's going to change the actual game plan, because whatever you've been doing is not, teams are figuring that out. I definitely think their defensive game plan is not up to snuff anymore. They just don't blitz enough. I know Vic Fangio would have taken this team and changed the defensive scheme, and that didn't really jive well with Kyle. He wanted to keep it the same. That's why he kept Sorensen. So. We got a lot of calls here. I gotta silence my phone. I guess Monday's a busy day. If it's Philly, you're not watching. Maybe the halftime show. Maybe. Yeah. Throwback says Jimmy's not even starting. His brother's comment is useless. Absolutely. Yeah, Jimmy's little bro living off of Jimmy G's salary. It's crazy. Steve Young said Kyle needs to reinvent himself, and I agree with them. I think he's right. I think he's absolutely right. Jerry Rice was on the morning roast this morning, and he definitely roasted and toasted the 49. Jerry Rice keeps it 100. Listen, this is what he said. So this is what he said. We'll go through all of these. This is what he said on Brock Purdy. He says on if Brock Purdy can get better. He says Brock can get better if you keep adding to the puzzle. If the guy doesn't feel like he has to do it on his own on the football field, everyone's talking about injuries. You still got to find a way to win. So part of it is, yeah, there might be injuries, but if you're a great elite quarterback, you can figure out a way to win. But also get him some pieces to the puzzle. Your offensive line stinks. Your receivers, they're getting washed. And you need to figure that out. You went and drafted a wide receiver in the first round. You're not even using them. So I like what Jerry said on that with Brock Purdy. Jerry Rice on Deebo Samuel. This one was, whoo. He says, I don't know what is going on. Wait, that's what Jerry Rice said. I don't know what is going on. For me, I would have been pissed at myself and at the whole scenario, which I think Deebo did say he was upset at himself, but it did come across as he was pissed. Like he was smiling in the press conference, in the locker room when they were talking to him. He was kind of like nonchalant about it. So he says, for me, I'd be pissed at myself at the whole scenario. After you complain about not getting touches, you cannot drop the football. I never said anything about touches. I just kept working. Honestly, I never heard Jerry Rice complain about that. Like that's most receivers are divas, right? Most receivers, throw me the ball. Keyshawn Johnson, throw me the ball. Get me the ball. You have Randy Moss. Prayers up to Randy. Hope he's okay. When he was on the Oakland, I mean, he didn't want to be there. He walked off in the game. He mooned the team. He didn't do it. He was mad at the Raiders. They didn't use him. He voiced his frustrations. Terrell Owens, we know how he was back in the day. He voiced his frustrations. Jerry Rice, he never did voice his frustrations, but Jerry Rice always got the damn ball. So maybe that's why. He says, I just kept working. Jerry Rice was a worker, man, no matter what. Even in his 40s, he was dogging it up. Jerry Rice on Devondre Campbell. He says, if he would have been on the team, I would have been addressed right there on the football field, not in the locker room. Jerry Rice was throwing hands. Jerry Rice would have beat the shit out of Devondre Campbell's part of my language. He goes, if you're not ready to go to war with your team, I think it would have been dealt with on the sidelines. He said it would have been nipped in the butt. Like, you don't mess around. Like, it would have been done right there. And then the last thing Jerry Rice notably said on the 49ers moving forward, he says, I'm looking for players to not give up and get the contract with Brock Purdy out of the way. Just continue to build around him. So get the contract done. Build around the guy. Get it done. Don't waste your time. So those were the comments Jerry Rice said. Good stuff. A couple more questions. Chris Teal says, do you believe if we go to Kittle sooner and get Juice more involved, that the offense could get better? Honestly, I don't know about Juice being involved much. I don't think he makes a big difference at this point. But George Kittle, yes, he's your MVP of this team. To me, George Kittle, obviously, I think most people agree, is a Hall of Famer. Hall of Fame tight end. Get him the ball. Absolutely, get him the ball. Get him involved early and often. And I've said this before. I feel like the 49ers have missed so much on trying to get a tight end to be like Kittle's heir apparent or like the number 2 tight end to, we can throw it to this guy too. Because they always want George Kittle to block. And he does a great job. We know how great George Kittle is in terms of, being a complete player. Like, he can block, he can catch, he can do it all. Instead of getting a scrub like Cameron Latu, Braden Willis, a guy that they can't do it like George Kittle, go get a blocking tight end. That's why I like Charlie Warner. Get a blocking tight end. Get a guy that's so good at blocking. Or draft an offensive lineman. Hello. Go get some guys that can block. And then you can just use George Kittle in the passing game because that's what you need to do. Like Travis Kelce, everybody says, Kittle's better than Kelce because he could block, which is absolutely true. But Travis Kelce doesn't need to worry about blocking. And he goes out there and has some of the biggest games, in tight end history because they don't worry about his blocking. They just use him as a receiver, which the 49ers should do too. Like, I get it. George Kittle's such a good receiver, but go get a blocker. If you need somebody to block so much, go draft a guy to block because Kittle's better as a receiver than any other tight end. You're wasting him. So, yeah, get George Kittle involved. I couldn't believe it this last game. You had Debo dialed up, like you force-fed him the ball, and George Kittle not getting the ball. No, still mad about that. You think they'll extend Dre? Definitely a question. Depends on if they think he's going to be healthy, but I do think they should. I think they should extend Dre. I mean, you saw what he did. I mean, they came in one game. His defense looked so much different. It was like night and day. Yes, please extend him. I think they should. I just don't know if they will because there's a lot of contracts. I think ultimately he will be one of the guys they do bring back, but there's going to be a lot of guys they don't bring back, if that makes sense. Jerry Rice thinks that Kyle Shannon's got to reinvent himself. Yeah, Jerry Rice and Steve Young are both right. They're both saying it. If defensive coordinators catch up to you, they're going to take away the strength of your offense. Just let these playmakers go play. I think you're right. You know what? Defensive have figured out. Like the league tries to copy the 49ers. Green Bay Packers have a receiver, Reed, that exactly is the new Debo, basically. You got a lot of coaches in the league that were former 49er coaches, a lot of coordinators, a lot of DC, a lot of head coaches, D'Amico Ryans. A lot of these teams use the 49ers offensive system. So, yeah, teams have figured out Kyle. He needs to figure out how to reinvent himself so teams don't know what he's doing anymore because they know what he's doing. It's no surprise. Do I have any realistic draft crushes that we can get in the first round? Not yet. I got to start looking. I just don't want to look at the draft yet. But I think everybody wants Travis Hunter. Well, it's not realistic. So I will do my due diligence in looking into draft picks. I know there's some offensive linemen we could probably get. Kyle Shanahan has to adapt, and he hasn't. Absolutely. AJ Kittle is a Hall of Famer. I'm hoping the Niners don't give up a Kittle and extend him. I think this is the year. You might have to extend George Kittle or restructure him or something, but that's another guy that's in jeopardy. I'm not going to say they're going to lose George Kittle, but you have to understand the reality of the situation. They want to pay Brock Purdy. There's contracts out there that might be expiring or might have to be restructured or they got to get rid of. Like Debo is one of them. Kyle Juszczyk's one of them. George Kittle is the guy. I don't think the Niners want to release him. I don't think they will release him, but they're going to look at that contract. It's going to come up. Like these are all going to be things that come up in discussions. We're going to see updates. We're going to freak out. But ultimately, there's going to be certain guys that stay. There's going to be certain guys that don't stay. And just got to be ready for that. It's going to be a wild offseason. Lucas says, I think Ward is gone after this year. Unfortunately, I agree. They did extend Diamond Lenore this year. And they made that a priority. I think he's going to be their cornerback one moving forward. And then he's, great young quarterback. He's a vocal leader. The team really loves this guy, and he's really stepped up his game over the last couple of years. proven himself. And they did get Renardo Green this offseason in the draft, who's been playing very well overall this year. So I think Renardo Green, Lenore will be your future cornerback 1-2 duo, and that definitely leaves Mooney Ward out on the wrong side of the contract situation. So it's unfortunate. And, he would probably cost more than a Renardo Green. And then you have this young guy that you really drafted in the second round and invested in. You can't develop him if he's not going to be starting. So, yeah, unfortunately, I do think Charvarius Mooney Ward won't be back with the Niners next year. But, I love the guy. I hope he does come back. But I do think if there's one of the guys that isn't going to come back and, again, there's going to be players that don't, I think that's one of them. It's unfortunate. Renee says, I think we'll go in 2 of our last 3 games. Looking forward to next season. I don't think Kyle will ever win a Super Bowl. I hope he proves me wrong. Yeah, I hope he proves you wrong, too. I hope he proves – I kind of feel the same. I don't know if he can win a Super Bowl. He gets so close and then just can't get it. Like, I want to see him win a Super Bowl. I want to see this team. I don't care who the coach is. I don't care who your quarterback. I just want to see the 49ers win another Super Bowl before I'm dead. You never know. You never know what's going to happen. Right? It's crazy to think that under the Shanahan era, the only lineman we drafted in round 1 was Mike McGlinchey. We saw how that turned out. Woo! The first-round picks have just not been good in general for the 49ers under Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch. I have a post coming up this offseason, but let's take a look at all the first-round picks the 49ers have had with Kyle Shanahan and what the heck is it? Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch at the helm. I know I wrote it down somewhere. Where is it at? The heck is it? Hold on, give me a second. Here we go. Okay. So, 2017, their first draft, as we know, number 3 overall, they drafted Solomon Thomas. What a miss. They passed on a lot of good players. At the time, Deshaun Watson coming in would have been one of the best quarterbacks. I know now looking at what happened after, he's crazy. But before he went off the deep end, he was a great quarterback. They passed on Patrick Mahomes. You took the next season in 2018, number 9 overall. You got Mike McGlinchey, man. That was abysmal. And then 2019, this one worked out pretty good. Nick Bosa, he was picked number 2. Fantastic pick. We all know Defensive Player of the Year, Defensive Rookie of the Year. That one worked out. The next season, obviously, we know they got rid of DeForest Buckner. That was shockwaves through the Niner empire. They drafted Javon Kinlaw at 14 when they traded down, actually, from 13 to 14. And then they traded up to get Brandon Ayuk that same draft. So they drafted Kinlaw and Ayuk. Kinlaw's not on the team anymore. His famous moment was telling Grant Cohn, my nuts are bigger than yours. And then Brandon Ayuk, who fleeced the team in the offseason. And then in 2021, number 3 overall, you traded up 3 draft picks, 3 first-round picks for quarterback Trey Lance. And then last year, finally, after 3 years, you pick rookie wide receiver out of Florida, Ricky Pearsall. So that is your 49ers first-round draft history under Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch. Not too great. Not too great. So not too great. So I don't know if we should tank for a top pick. I really don't. I don't know. Niners don't seem to get these first-round picks right. Do I think the loss of Solomon Thomas, his sister, affected his career? Yeah, I remember when he was on the team, I did say, he's went through a lot emotionally. I'm sure he had a lot of depression. I'm sure he had a lot of, dark days. That was tough, man. You can't put your head on straight sometimes. And, you had all those issues going forward. I'm sure that definitely impacted his career. He's a good dude. I've met him many times. Such a nice guy. He does a lot of, good awareness for suicide prevention and things like that. But the fact of the nature is we didn't need that at that point. And they drafted him as an edge because they did use him as an edge initially. And he was more of an in-between, a middle interior D lineman. Edge just was a bad pick. But the reason is they needed a quarterback. This is your first year taking over a team. All right, you got a new coach, new GM. Most teams build their team around a quarterback. He didn't have a quarterback. He had Brian Hoyer, for Christ's sake. Go get a quarterback. But we all know Kyle wanted Kirk Cousins. We know the history. So to me, that's why it was bad. Is you just didn't need that pick at number 3. You needed to go get a quarterback. Because now look at all the teams now. If they get a top 5 pick and they need a quarterback, they're getting a quarterback, 100%. You don't take a tweener defensive tackle. But you live, you learn. That was their first draft. They definitely missed on that one. But yeah, as far as his career, I think it definitely did hurt his career having his sister die and everything. But 49ers should never have drafted him. But good question. Niners have missed on a lot of people. Mahomes, Watt, Villa, Wirfs, Sewell. It's a lot of talent. Why has the 49ers faced the whole tragedy in the NFL this season? Trent Williams, Travis Ward, Pearsall, etc. So unfortunate. Even the coach, their offensive line coach, his wife died before the Super Bowl, right? Because of ovarian cancer. That's sad. Trent Williams' wife lost their son, stillbirth. Travis Ward, we know his daughter died. Ricky Pearsall shot in the chest trying to get robbed. And then you had players playing through injury. Fred Warner played through a broken ankle. Just a lot of bad luck, man. Season's been tough. You had Christian McCaffrey going to Germany to try to get his ankle right so he could play. He played in a PCL injury. It's been a rough year, man. So I'm just proud of these guys for fighting and playing as hard as they can. And that's why it makes me so mad that Devondre Campbell quit. And I'm glad they suspended him today and he doesn't get his pay. That's what he deserves. These guys have played through so much. This is the last thing I'll say tonight before we leave for this show. But, these Niners have fought through so much adversity. They've played through so many injuries. Even Nick Bosa played through his oblique injury. I'm sure he's been pissed that he missed games. Trent Williams is trying to come back. I don't know if he will come back, but he's rehabbing. And he's at least making an attempt to come back to this team, despite the ankle injury and despite, the stillbirth that his wife had. All these guys are remarkable, and they're really trying to play through it. And the fact that Devondre Campbell just was mad that, I'm not going to hit my incentives. Oh, Dre Greenlaw is back, and now you're throwing me to the curb. Like, yeah, I get it. You're stressed. You want to play. That you basically lost your job to another guy. But you knew that wasn't your job, really, and you had a 1-year contract, man. Like, be the noble guy and say, okay, I'll take a side. I'll move to the side, and if you guys need me, I'll be there. Because even Richard Sherman said last night, say, hey, man, if you would have came in and you really would have played well and, came into relief, that would have really won you over with this team, and then maybe they'll extend you next year. And other teams would see that, too. Other teams go, oh, man, that's a very noble guy for stepping aside and then coming in, swallowing his pride and playing and helping this team, But no, he didn't. He left like a baby, and then he forced Demetrius Flannigan-Fowles to play on an injured fucking leg, man. He could have ruined his career. Like, he could have, had a serious detrimental injury, where he maybe doesn't play anymore. I mean, that sucks, man. So Devondre Campbell is on the S list this season, and I'm happy that he got suspended, and I'm happy he's not going to get paid. Like, he doesn't deserve any more money. You already fleeced the Niners. You played like dog trash this season anyways. He had a few good games here and there, but for the most part, Devondre Campbell, let's be real, he was absolute dog trash. Absolute dog trash this season. So I heard that he did stuff like that with the Green Bay Packers. It's just the type of guy he is. Do I think there's anything that Campbell that was going on in his personal life that we didn't know? I don't know. But he does have a weird track history. Like, when he left the Green Bay Packers, when they released him, if you look at his Twitter history, he went off on it. He sounded off on it. So to me, based on, again, I don't know the guy personally. I don't know if he's going through anything personally. If he is, I'm sorry. It's unfortunate. We all go through things. So I hope he's not. But if you look at his history, just based on his history, I can't give him the benefit of the doubt because he seems like a terrible person. That's it. Bottom line. That's a good question. I don't think he was going through anything. I just think he's a jerk and he's a baby because Dre Greenlaw is better than him. You know what's crazy? Yeah, there's no excuse for that, AJ. You know what's crazy? This guy comes in, Dre Greenlaw, love him, comes in his first game back after you tore your Achilles. You guys saw the video of what his fiance posted and the time lapse. It was incredible. Like, what a journey. His first game back, he had a better game than Devondre Campbell had all season, and he didn't go through injury. This man, Dre Greenlaw, had one of the biggest injuries you could have for any athlete. You ruptured your Achilles. You know how hard it is to come back from that. 10 months later, he had a better game than Devondre Campbell had all season long. I'll leave you with that. You guys have a good rest of your day. Appreciate y'all. Make sure you hit that like button. And I'm so happy Devondre Campbell is suspended from the Niners. Stay up, stay down. Go Niners.